Hi and welcome to Healthy Life Hacks. I'm Jennifer Jefferies, the present-day wise woman, a realistic naturopath coming to you from the surfing beaches of Australia. This podcast is for those of you who are wanting to really rock your life and health and live from a place of prevention. Let's get into today's episode. Well-being is a skill that we can learn. We're not taught well-being. We get our well-being or our sense of well-being from the way we're raised, from being able to, get cues from our environment and the people around us. Oh, they look like that and they eat that, or they go to bed at this time. We learn well-being from just our surroundings. The thing is, it's not always the right information. I remember when my grandmother died, my mum said to me, Nana died from bowel cancer and I'm going to as well. And I went, Mum, if you eat white bread jam sandwiches like every day like Nana does, you're not going to have a happy bum, pretty much. Or you can choose as an adult to learn and eat differently and have a different health result, which she did. So as a naturopath, we talk about there's this concept of context, how everything external influences our internal well-being, everything internal then influences our external well-being. The problem is we're not taught this stuff. We're not taught this stuff. And in this podcast, I want to teach you about some of the work by a guy by the name of Richie Davidson. And he was a guy who kind of founded neuroplasticity. And we can learn anything. In particular, the biggest thing we need to learn is how to be well. So let's go. So Richie Davidson, super cool professor over in the States, done all this work with the Dalai Lama. You can find his books everywhere online. He says that well-being is not merely a fleeting emotion, but a skill that can be learned and cultivated over time. And I think about how I was raised. We had a pretty basic life. We were pretty poor. So, the meat that we ate, for instance, was offal. I went to school, I don't know how many times, with white bread jam sandwiches. And I remember saying to my mum, in the last decade, why did we go to school with white bread jam sandwiches? And she said, well, we couldn't afford food. And so I grew up, thinking this is kind of a wellness thing, or this is what you do. This is how you eat. This is how you go to bed. This is how you do stuff. It's just the way it is. Then I went into the army as a 17-year-old and learned different things about how to eat for exercise and to grow your body and all that, and started to learn doing things different. Also learned in the army how to drink and became an alcoholic. And then at 26, burned out and went back to school and studied to be a naturopath and learned learned this context of and I learned this theory of context, which is how everything external influences our internal, and then internal then influences our external. And I went, wow, okay, cool. So I learned at 26 that well-being is something we get to learn, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm driven to teach the core basics of that around the world because most people are not taught it. I love nowadays so much that people are more aware of wellness. And I think, it's as we record this, it's 2024. We had that pandemic for a couple of years, and that brought a lot of people's health to the forefront of their thinking, and they started doing things differently. However, what I've also noticed is that so many people, they went, that's it, I'm just going to stay healthy and look after my immune system so that this kind of thing doesn't happen again and I don't get COVID and all this stuff. However, they've already defaulted back and slid back to where they were. So many of them are. And so it is a journey. It's a journey for us to learn about well-being. What I love about Richie Davidson is that, his work talking about neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is like we kind of think our brain is this thing that's just there, and it's an accumulation of all the experiences and thoughts and everything through life. What he really discovered is that it's kind of like it's plastic. We can remold, we can remold, we can rewire this neuroplasticity in our brain. And I love that it can come from intentional kind of practices and experiences. So, intentionally, I remember at 26 burning out. Prior to that, I drank alcohol and soft drink. I sure as hell never bought a glass of water. When I burned out and killed my kidneys and stuff, it was like I went, wow, okay, I learned I needed to drink water to live, to survive. So I rewired my brain that I drink a glass of water an hour. It was an intentional practice that has brought a different sense of wellness and well-being to me. And there's been so many of those little things that I've done and ways of being in life that I've focused on intentionally to bring well-being into my life. And people don't realize it. So Richie talks about there being 4 pillars to well-being. Okay. The 4 pillars are: 1, resilience, your outlook on life, the attention, and your generosity. So these pillars, they're kind of like a roadmap to help us in the end result be happy and feel fulfilled and purposeful. And they help give us a rich life versus well-being isn't just physical health, it's emotional health and mental health. And so many people have understood the impacts of stress on mental health and that over these last few years. So Richie really, his work is all around that kind of stuff. So we know that we can't control stress, but we can control our response to it. Now, emotional resilience, it lies in that heart of well-being, okay? It helps us to navigate life's challenges. The stresses are going to come up, and it helps us to navigate them with grace. And he talks about the importance of resilience being a skill that can be developed through challenges, and an event of some description comes up, and we build that resilience through those challenges. But we can do things in advance, which is my thing, come from a place of prevention. The more we do things like meditation, mindfulness and meditation, reframing what is going on, and then being gentle with ourselves, self-compassion. So it's like we're challenged with something, and the more I ground myself out. I talk about how my gardening, I do chanting every day, which is a walking meditation. The more I do those things, I'm going to be less reactive. I'm going to be able to respond. So the challenge or the stress comes up, I can't control it. I can absolutely control and go with responding differently to it, to what my old default is. Okay. And that's that learning resilience. And I can reframe it. I can reframe it from being whatever this challenge is, whatever's going on, bring it back to something that's more positive and not as taxing on my body, and be gentle with myself in that process. So, I kind of talk about it all the time when, if someone's eating a packet of Tim Tams and they're halfway there, the habit's been that they'll emotionally eat. Maybe they're halfway through a packet of Tim Tams or something like that. Say you're halfway through a packet of Tim Tams and the old default is like, oh, guilt, negative emotions, no self-compassion. I might as well just keep cleaning out the packet of Tim Tams, versus doing things like meditation in life and mindfulness, practicing mindfulness, to be and not get, just keep yourself grounded so you can just deal with what's going on in life versus being caught up in the chaos of it. And being able to reframe it and go, wow, I'm only halfway through that packet of Tim Tams. I love and care for myself now. I can put the rest away, and in a calm response versus a reactive guilt, which is not self-compassionate. We're able to start the process of moving through, and that helps directly to build the resilience that we're looking for. Okay, it gives us that ability to be able to bounce back from a challenge, the adversity, a setback, whatever it is, that thing that has been challenging us, adversity, we're able to bounce back sooner. And as naturopaths, we say that, there's the alkaline corridor. When we're in it, everything works great. Life kicks us in and out all day, every day. And all we care about is how quick. Well-being comes from how quick you bounce back. You're always going to be challenged. That's life. You're out. We care about how quick you bounce back. So all this stuff, totally, what Richie Davidson talks about with all of his mindfulness, and that totally fits naturopathic thinking. We're not just a physical being, we're an emotional being, we're a mental being. So we've got to be able to look at our body on all levels. So how do we, bring in that positive outlook and perspective? It's easier to see positive things in other people and positive experiences and all that kind of stuff. And yet it's in us that we'll still default to what's wrong. Okay. And our outlook, our sense of hope that it's going to be okay, all those things absolutely influence our emotional well-being and overall happiness and kind of satisfaction for life. So Richie Davidson talks deeply about coming from a place of gratitude and optimism and self-reflection. So if I think about, gratitudes, I did some reels about it recently I had a gorgeous friend die. She was murdered, and it really rocked me. And I was rocked. Absolutely. It really, I couldn't, yeah, I was rocked. And I was sad, so sad on the inside. I cry, think about it. Um, but I knew I needed to get my brain back. I needed to come back. It wasn't going to serve her, me being so stuck in the grief. And I went, how do I come out of this hole? What's the first thing I can do when you're feeling so sad? And I went, just be grateful for one thing, Jen. Just be grateful for one thing. What are you grateful for? And then like hourly that day, I remember I just kept coming back to gratitudes. And gradually that brought me back to being more optimistic, and I could, do self-reflection and question what was going on without going down that rabbit hole, so to speak, as deeply. So reframing negative experiences to something that I can grow through. So like, yeah, me being trapped in how she died and stuff like that was not going to help her. And me getting sick out of it was not going to help me. And so I started with gratitude. That helped start to give me, some hope and to keep moving forward. And then, celebrate with the little wins in life. Just like, okay, wow, cool. Yep, got through today. I'm good. And I started to move back. And when we do this, it doesn't matter how big that range is that we need to move through, from whatever the challenge is that's got us derailed. Coming back to a positive outlook is really important, and it happens by us, reframing it, shifting that perspective. And for me, being gentle with myself, which is the step before, and just going, yeah, Jen, cool, you did today, it's all good. But I'm able to move from a scarcity mindset to an abundance. It's going to be okay. And the very first subject that we study as naturopaths is actually the state of hopelessness. We need to have hope in life to actually stay alive. And so when we're in despair, when everything's like, fuck, I can't do it. When we're in that space, we don't have hope. That's the most taxing state we can be in our body. And that takes us away from well-being the most. It's why we study it as the very first subject as naturopaths. So we need to bring ourselves back to be able to have hope and to be able to move forward. And for me, through me reading books like, the Richie Davidson stuff, I went, start with gratitudes, Jen. Just what's one thing you're grateful for? And truly that day, I went, it's time. It's time. I've grieved. I'm not doing anything helpful for her loss. And I need to get me back. I just every hour I was like, what am I grateful for? I just noticed. I opened my eyes again and started looking to see what was out there that was working for me instead of against me. So that's part of it. Part of it is Richie Davidson talks about how a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. And I have a creative mind. I have an ADHD mind. So I talk about how when people are in overwhelm, okay, it's just that they're not in action. So literally me sitting still thinking, poor me, sad, 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 she died, that didn't help. Okay, it didn't help. My mind is just going, and it was not happy. So what if you asked yourself, or Richie talks about asking yourself these 3 questions. What are you doing right now? Where is your mind right now? Is it focused on what you're doing, or is it focused elsewhere? And how happy or unhappy are you? I asked myself that. What am I doing right now? Well, I'm sitting here feeling sorry for myself. What's my mind doing right now? I'm thinking about all the horrible things that happened to her when she died. Is it focused on what I'm doing? No, it was focusing on, the past, which I couldn't change. And was I happy? No, I was bloody sad. It was right. Okay. So we live in this world where our brain is being bombarded all the time, and it's so easy for our brains to be distracted, for us to go into overwhelm. And learning how to master that and how to keep our attention and teach our brains to be present with whatever the experience is we're going through helps us to be able to stay calm, be clear in that chaos of life. And so asking that, what am I doing right now? Chucking a poor me, basically, I was. So from the step before, I went, right, just be grateful for one thing then, Jen. Just be grateful for one thing. And then meditation, mindfulness and meditation, being so present with what you're doing. You're doing something, you're in action. And I know the art of meditation you think is doing nothing, but it's not. You're you're doing something about doing nothing. You're focused on letting, meditating means to do one thing at once, to be so present that you're there, versus having your brain go off and be busy, like he says, a wandering mind's an unhappy mind. So for me, I chant, I do walking meditations. I learned that through Hindu teachings 3 decades ago, and it's part of my daily life. And when I was in my poor me about my friend dying, I let that go. And so that was part of me coming back, get my mind grounded, centered, thinking about one thing, and it brought that calm and that clarity back to what was a pretty chaotic time in my life. And it's only the last month, guys. I still have stuff go down in my life. We all do. My life is not happy, happy, cheery, cheery every second. I get challenged in different ways, just like you do. And the difference is I've been working on some of these things longer to find ways to bring me back to center sooner than later. This one rattled me the deepest than anything's rattled me for a long time. And then the next thing to do after that is that we're service-orientated beings. So if you think about how good you feel when you're able to help someone else. So Richie Davidson talks about how it's important to foster generosity in us, that art of, or the joy of giving. And it's not about physically giving stuff. It's that joy of, even just, hey, contacting a friend, would you like to come for a walk? Something like that. It doesn't have to be a thing. It's an act of kindness. It's a me doing Alice's washing and folding her washing and putting it away because I love to do that for her. It's compassion. It's just giving and doing things that foster your soul. So we are service-orientated beings, and a great way to bring us back to that sense of well-being is to use is the wrong word, to make mindful, purposeful giving part of your daily practices. The book, The Daymaker, I read, 20 years ago. And it's so good. Just make someone's day. Give them a compliment. Oh my gosh, what a concept. How much joy do you feel when you see them smile? It's like, oh, it's magical. It's absolutely magical. They're little things. And these are all, these ones that I've run through today. People think well-being is just what you eat or just what you exercise. It's not. Well-being is a way of being, and it's a skill that we can learn. So where you're at right now, think about it. Is everything on every level? Be true to yourself, truthful to yourself. Is everything rocking on every damn level that's possible? And if it's like, yeah, life's good. Okay, great. What if it was great? What if it could be? So there's always things that we can learn. We learn about nutrition. That's my thing, to teach people stuff. I am not the exercise queen to teach people exercise and stuff. Other people have got that as a superpower. I share things like I do to keep my mindset right. And remember, our context is how everything external influences our internal, and our internal then gives us our external way of being. And so the more we start to learn these little things and practice them, you're not going to be an expert at meditating at first if you've never meditated. What if you even sat for 5 minutes, focused on your breath, do one thing at once, breathe in. Mindfully, just breathe in slowly, count yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just start. And we get better and better and better at it until it becomes more defaults that are working for us instead of against us. When life tries to take us away from our well-being, were able to bring us back to center. So these daily practices, they bring things like resilience, that positive outlook, the mindful attention, generosity, the giving that I talked about. They help us grow. They help us transform. They help us be happier. Happiness is like a journey. It's a lifelong practice. The art of well-being is a lifelong practice. It's just not, I learned everything about well-being and that's just the way it is. And now it's like, yay. No, it's not. It is a lifelong practice that we just keep building layers and layers and layers. And it's a skill. It's a skill that we can learn and hone with every single day of our lives. Why? Why not? You deserve to be strong, fit, and healthy, physically, emotionally, and mentally. You really do. You really do. That's like a God-given right. The thing is, we live in such a bloody logical world. It just takes us away sometimes. So try it on. I promise it's worth it. Track down Richie Davidson's books. He's got a bunch of them. He's done such cool work with the Dalai Lama. They've set up this happiness institute in the States. Yeah, super cool guy, really worth tapping into. I love his teachings. See ya. I want to thank you for being here today. If you enjoyed my podcast, please let me know by leaving a review on Apple Podcast. Every month, I draw one lucky person who leaves a review, have a free 1-hour consultation with me. Be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you're tuning in from so that you always catch the next episode. I welcome your emails and you can write to me at podcast@healthylifehacks.com.au. Until next time, remember, when it comes to life, live it, love it, and get on with it.